Hey y'all, in this lesson we are looking at solving inequalities with multiplication and division. So we want to be able to solve inequalities using multiplication or division. Our big idea is that solving inequalities with multiplication and division is the same as solving equations with multiplication and division when the values are positive. However, when multiplying or dividing by negative values, we're going to see that the inequality symbol is reversed. So, our essential question for you to write down in your notes: how is solving inequalities with multiplication and division similar to and different from solving equations with multiplication and division? Our first example is going to look at using positive values. Here we have Gina's pet pot-bellied pig is on a diet. He can have no more than 18 ounces of pig food per day. How many scoops of pig food can Gina feed the pig without going over 18 ounces? And we can see on the bag here that there are 4 ounces per scoop. So, we want to know how many scoops. We know that there are 4 ounces per scoop. Our number of scoops is going to be our variable. And the total can be equal to, but not more than 18. So we use the less than or equal to symbol. So we have 4 times S, 4 ounces per scoop. Per is a good indicator of multiplication. 4 times S is less than or equal to 18. When we go to solve this, it's very simple in that it's one step. We're going to divide both sides by 4. Remember, you can use a fraction to represent division. And we would get 18 divided by 4 is 4.5. So S is less than or equal to 4.5. We can represent that on a number line, like when they say graph the solution. So we're going to have a closed dot because of the line underneath the less than symbol. And that closed dot is at about 4.5, so halfway between 4 and 5. And we shade in numbers to the left to indicate things that are less than. One important distinction might be that you wouldn't want your number line to go less than 0 because she can't give less than 0 scoops. So a number line going less than 0 for this problem wouldn't make sense. Thus, Gina can feed her pig up to 4.5 scoops of food. Here is a division, so you need to use multiplication problem to try. Fill in the circles with the correct inequality symbol. Fill in the square boxes with the correct numbers. Then graph your solution. Now we're going to take a look at using division by a negative value. So we're going to solve the inequality negative 3.4m is less than or equal to 17. Then we'll graph the solution. So we have our equation, and we only have to do one step. That is divide by negative 3.4. Now, dividing by negative 3.4, dividing by a negative value, will reverse the inequality symbol. Because essentially, a negative means opposite. So if we're dividing by the opposite of something, we need to do the opposite symbol. Now, we kind of do this when we do equations, but when you turn the equal sign around, it still looks like the equal sign. So it really only shows up when we have inequalities, that we are dividing by an opposite, so we change it to the opposite symbol. Thus, instead of being less than or equal to, our m is greater than or equal to negative 5. So on our number line, we have negative 5 filled in, that dot filled in, and we are drawing an arrow to the right, indicating those larger numbers. Here are 2 problems for you to try. One is you need to divide, and one is you need to multiply. They're both using negative numbers, so make sure you flip your inequality sign, and then remember to graph your solution. And that is the end. So to summarize, solving inequalities with multiplication and division is the same as solving equations with multiplication and division when the values are positive. You use inverse relationships between multiplication and division to isolate the variable. When multiplying or dividing by negative values, we must remember that the inequality symbol is reversed. Otherwise, it is very much the same steps. Your next steps are to complete your practice build 2.2 and then your mastery check. Once done, you can move on to the next lesson. Good luck!